Hi, and welcome to Fiction Technician. I'm Jane Kalmus, and in this video we're going to be discussing one of my favorite topics, story structure. Specifically, the 15-beat story structure from Blake Snyder's seminal book, Save the Cat. We're going to be looking at it through a real piece of fiction so we can see how all of these beats come together to provide an emotionally resonant storyline. And we're going to be discussing a few of my own modifications to the structure, which help to clarify how to transition between acts. Let's get started. Save the Cat is a book brimming with writing advice, and like a lot of great wisdom, many of Snyder's points sound both simple and obvious just as soon as somebody points them out to you. That is definitely true of his story structure. We're going to be looking at it through the lens of Cobra Kai, which is a YouTube original series spawned by the 1980s Karate Kid films. We'll get to catch up with good old Daniel LaRusso and find out what he's up to, but our main focus will be his karate nemesis, Johnny Lawrence. The Save the Cat beat sheet is composed of 15 plot points or beats, and the first of these is opening image. Here's where we're going to find out what our protagonist's status is when the story begins and figure out what exactly is going wrong in their lives right now. There probably should be something going wrong, even if the character isn't aware of it at the moment. And when the plot really gets rolling, our character will have to deal with whatever acute issues come up, but also deal with these chronic issues that we establish in this beat. The opening image of Cobra Kai is all about Johnny being defeated. We see him literally defeated at the end of Karate Kid, and then we see him years later in his apartment and defeat is just all over him. He's got chips in his bed, he's got a skunked beer next to it, and oh, look at that, he's got a hangover. He really sums it up in this scene.
I was just wondering if you were having trouble with your water pressure, because I know our sink's being a little weird right now. Oh, bottle's going to the blue bin.
Listen, Menudo, I've lived in this shithole for over 10 years. The pipes don't work, the fountain's full of piss, and the only good thing about being here is I don't have to talk to anybody. So nice knowing you.
He tells us that he's stuck in a dead-end life, but hey, at least he's alone, right? Is he really stuck, and does he really want to be alone? The story is going to give him the opportunity to address both of those questions. Next comes catalyst. The catalyst is where something happens not caused by the protagonist that forces him to take action. In Cobra Kai, Johnny's had a terrible day and he just wants to sit on a curb in a strip mall eating a sad slice of pizza for dinner. But that's not going to happen because Miguel, the kid from his apartment complex, is attacked by bullies. Johnny tries to ignore the beating, but eventually a man has to stand for something.
Hey! Watch your car, man.
Who's this dude?
Just leave the dork alone.
Get the hell out of here, loser.
Let's get him.
This isn't going to end well for Johnny. But that's okay because it gets him to the next beat, which is the debate. The debate is all about the character grappling with the challenge ahead of them and wondering if they're really up for it. In Cobra Kai, Miguel will ask Johnny to be his karate teacher, and Johnny will say, "No way." This is usually how we react when opportunity comes knocking, especially if it's an intimidating opportunity. But as the debate progresses, Johnny will come face to face with Daniel. He'll be shamed by the difference in their status, and he'll feel like he needs to make a change. Snyder calls the next beat break into two, but I like to think of it as the challenge accepted, because that is what this beat is all about.
Are you sure you're ready? Because once you go down this path, there's no turning back.
You're gonna be my karate teacher?
No. I'm gonna be your sensei.
Theme stated. Here's where we're going to find out what the story is about on a philosophical level. In the original structure, this actually comes much earlier, in between the opening image and the catalyst. Here it happens later, and that works fine. And I think it serves to illustrate how the Blake Snyder beat sheet is not a map, it's a recipe. You can mess it about to suit your own tastes and the needs of your story. I want to talk about this beat because I feel like it's often misunderstood. It's important to understand that theme stated does not equate to moral stated. If the moral of your story is love conquers all, this is not the place where a character will say love conquers all. They will probably say something more like, love, what's it good for? Or they might get at the issue indirectly by expressing a loveless attraction to another character. But the one thing they won't do is come out and say exactly what you want us to understand about your story's theme. The whole story is basically about getting the protagonist to the point where they understand and embrace the theme. And if they state it right up front, well, we can all just go home. So I don't think of this beat as theme stated. I think of it more as theme challenged, or perhaps we could even call it theme floated. Okay, let's take a look at Johnny as he floats the theme of Cobra Kai. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. This is the way of the fist. It's the motto of Johnny's dojo, and it's his philosophy of life, which he learned from his abusive sensei, John Kreese, back in the original Karate Kid films. This is the philosophy the story will test. Is this the way to fight? Is this the way a strong person behaves? We're going to see this discussed both in the overall storyline and in several character arcs. There's one more beat mentioned in Snyder's structure, which is setup. This is essentially exposition. We meet the characters, we understand their situations, and we receive any information that we need to understand the story going forward. Here's the thing. This is not really a beat in the way that the others are. This is not a necessary plot point. This is more just some stuff that needs to happen. And it's best done when it can happen organically as you move through the other beats. For example, back in the opening image, we met Miguel, and that gave us the information we needed to understand the catalyst. We knew Miguel, we cared about him a little bit, and we understood why Johnny might care a little bit too. Sometimes you do need to insert a whole new scene to handle some setup. For example, this happens when we meet Daniel, his family, and the main bullies at school, Kyler, and his mean girl counterpart, Yasmin. The guiding principle is just that when you get to a highly emotional scene, like the catalyst or the challenge accepted, you want to make sure that the readers have the information going into that scene to understand it, so that you don't have to exposit while you're trying to do a big moment. All right, we're in Act 2, and it's time to take a little break from the main plot so we can roll up the B story. This is a subplot or major character arc. Frequently, it's the love story. Here, we're actually going to spin up two strong love stories. The first we'll call the B story, and that's Sam and Miguel. Miguel is attracted to Daniel LaRusso's daughter, Samantha, but she's into Kyler, the main school bully. She doesn't know he's a bully. She's just a very poor judge of character. The C story is a love story of a different kind. It's between Johnny and his estranged son, Robby, and it does not start out in a good place.
What do you want?
Robby, what the hell? You doing drugs? You want to flush your life down the toilet?
Like you're one to talk. Don't try to play dad now. You're a pathetic loser.
Fun and games. This is a longer beat, usually a series of scenes that deal with what Snyder calls the promise of the premise. These don't have to be plot-heavy scenes. Think of them as the fun showcase scenes that let you explore your world and your particular premise. So we get to see your cool robots in your sci-fi thriller, or in this case, we get to see some awesome karate, maybe learn a few tricks of the trade, and since this is a nostalgia piece, we're also expecting to see some fun kickbacks to Karate Kid. Well, we're halfway through and we're at the midpoint. This is another really tricky beat. Snyder defines it as a sort of mirror point to the finale. So if your story will end in a very positive place, then this is a false defeat. And if your story ends in a negative place, this is a false victory. Here's my problem with that. We've already got a false defeat coming up right in between these beats in a beat called All Is Lost. So what is the difference between this false defeat and this false defeat? Do we really need this one? I feel that we do. And the reason is that if you make it all the way through the middle of your story without any major change-ups, it's just going to feel a little bit linear and unsurprising. So I don't think of this beat as midpoint or as a false victory or defeat. I think of it as a place of change. So escalations, reversals, accelerations of the timeline, and most especially the raising of the stakes. All right, so what do we mean when we raise the stakes? We mean that either the character realizes that they have more at stake than they did at the beginning. They thought they were going to lose their job if they failed. Now they realize they'll lose their life. Or we mean that they have the same things at stake as always, but those things have become much more important to them. That's what happens here. Miguel is severely beaten, and Johnny realizes that his own business and his own fate aren't the only things that matter to him anymore. He now has the fate of a boy he truly cares about on the line. This is great for Johnny because it helps to ameliorate his loneliness, but although he doesn't know it, it deepens the divide between him and his son Robby. Sam was immune to the bullying as long as she was dating Kyler, but when she decides he's bad news, that changes.
Think it's funny to spread lies about me?
What are you talking about? We saw a movie, and that's it. Well, maybe I saw a little bit more than you.
Yeah, we heard you got pretty choked up.
A and B stories cross as Miguel gets the opportunity to not only impress Sam, but recruit a few new Cobras. Well, he seems to be doing a great job turning Cobra Kai into a functioning business and into a boon to some kids who really needed a way to feel confident. But all that's about to change because the next beat is bad guys close in. All right, here's where things really get hairy for your character. In Cobra Kai, Johnny finds out that his dojo has been banned from the All Valley tournament. And although he doesn't realize it, his son Robby will find a new mentor, a new father figure, in fact, in Johnny's nemesis, Daniel LaRusso. Bad Guys Close In culminates when Daniel's crazy cousin decides to torch Johnny's car. All is lost. Johnny complains to Daniel about the torched car, and Daniel is forced to make it right. Along the way, they find that they're actually getting along. But that comes to an end when they enter Daniel's dojo that evening and find Robby there.
Hey, Robby.
Mr. LaRusso, I really need to talk to you about something.
What the hell?
Robby's secret comes tumbling out, and this is devastating to all three characters.
You lied to me.
Please.
Get out
please,
now and don't come back to this house, not to the dealership, not ever.
Dark Night of the Soul. Here's where your character has to grapple with their emotional reaction to what just happened in All Is Lost. In Cobra Kai, Johnny gets plastered in a parking lot.
Sensei? Everything all right?
We're all gonna die, kid. We're all gonna die.
All right, this is a Dark Night of the Soul moment that is played for laughs more than for pathos. This can be a great place to really let your reader feel your character's pain and get closer to them. That's not what happens here. But we still need the beat, and the reason is human nature. We all take a moment to rebound from a truly devastating defeat, and if Johnny just showed up at the tournament tomorrow ready to go, we wouldn't think, wow, that guy's strong. We'd think, wow, he did not care about Daniel mentoring his kid nearly as much as I thought he would. So this moment doesn't have to be long. It doesn't even have to be very sad, as Cobra Kai proves. But we need it, or else we will undermine everything that happened in All Is Lost. Break into 3. The protagonist rallies for a final shot at his goal. I like to call this beat Go the Hard Road, because frequently the character will embark on a course of action that was always available to them, but that they were unwilling to consider until now. Maybe they join up with an unlikely ally, or they pull a really strong weapon out of their arsenal. That's exactly what happens here.
I haven't taught you the third rule of Cobra Kai. No mercy.
Johnny hadn't taught his students the last part of his philosophy because he harbors doubts about it and always has. But now, devastated and determined, he pulls out all the stops. Finale. Popularly known as the climax, here's where it all comes together. We see the Cobras perform well in the tournament, but we also begin to see that their aggression is taking over. Meanwhile, Daniel can't help but root for Robby, and they reconcile. When Hawk attacks Robby illegally, he's disqualified, leaving Miguel and Robby to duke it out in the finals. This is a battle not just between the boys, but between their sensei's very different philosophies.
Remember, no aggression. Just let him come to you.
Don't worry, Sensei. I won't let LaRusso or that kid go home a winner.
Final image. Here's where we see where the character's status has been changed by the story. Snyder thinks of this beat as sort of a mirror to the opening image. In the opening image, we saw Johnny defeated. Here we see him victorious when Miguel wins the tournament. However, this is an ironic victory for Johnny. By winning, he has deepened the estrangement between himself and Robby. And he's begun to see how the way of the fist is taking some of his students down a dark path. Well, that's where the Blake Snyder beat sheet ends, but Cobra Kai still has a couple tricks up its sleeve. There's a 16th beat that frequently occurs in series fiction, like series of novels or in a television show, and I like to call it the story continues. Basically, it's where we see a little hint of what's going to come up next. Cobra Kai has two story continues moments. In the first, we see that the rivalry between Johnny and Daniel is about to escalate.
I know I said you have to let go of your anger and show forgiveness, but when the fight comes to you, you have to be ready to fight back. And to do that, we'll need more students. Welcome to Miyagi-Do Karate.
And in the second, well, I'll let you see that one for yourself. Please do watch it. Cobra Kai has so much great humor and wonderful characters that I did not get to show you today. I really hope that this video gave you some ideas for some cool beats that could occur in your story. If you liked it, a thumbs up would be a great compliment. And if you never want to miss a video from me, just subscribe and tick that little bell icon. Thanks for watching.